السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد، يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: من عمل صالحا من ذكر أو أنثى فلنحيينه حياة طيبة ولنجزينهم أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, sometimes I hear the news and I think much has not changed. In ancient history and in the past, in Chinese culture, in the Arabian Peninsula, in different parts of the world, they would carry out female infanticide. There were different ways of doing it. In the Chinese culture, if a girl was born, there was a bucket of water, and as soon as she was born, if it was a girl, they would dump her and drown her in the bucket of water. In some other cultures, they would dig a hole right where the woman was giving birth. And if a girl was born, as soon as she was born, they would put her in the hole. In other cultures, they would put the girl in a basket in a tree. And the baby would approximately live for about 2 days before it died. Passerbys would walk past the tree. They would hear the baby crying, but they would not attend to the baby. And it normally took about 2 days before that baby girl died. In the Arabian Peninsula, we know before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would bury their daughters alive. And then I hear in 2017 that in China, especially during the one-child policy, through ultrasound and through different scientific means, if they found out that it was a girl, they would abort the baby before it was born. Approximately 30 million to 40 million girls were aborted simply because they were girls. Now you tell me, what is the difference between the two? The only difference here is that the killing is taking place after they find out that it's a girl, after the birth of the child. Ancient cultures, they were killing the girl as soon as they found out. And today, cultures, the girl is killed as soon as they find out. And then you look around and think, that incident that we all have heard of during the time of Umar radiallahu anh, when Egypt was conquered, and it was a custom of the people of that time in Egypt that once a year, when the Nile River the water levels would go down, they would purchase a girl from her parents by bribing the parents with money, gold, and silver. And then they would dress her up, put makeup on her, and they would take her into the middle of the river and drown her. And then the river would flow as it should for another year or so. And the next year they would do the same. When Islam came to Egypt, the governor of Egypt, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh, he put a stop to it and said, this cannot happen. The water levels began to go down. River Nile was about to dry out. Letter was written to Umar radiallahu an in Medina. And Umar radiallahu anhu replied, هَذَا لَا يَكُونْ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ أَبَدًا. This can never happen in Islam. And then wrote a letter to the river, and said, drop this letter of mine in the river. And it said to the river, O river Nile, if you flow with the command of Allah, then flow. And if you flow on your own, we have no need for you. To this day, the river is flowing. But my point is different. You've heard this before, but my point is, what were they doing to a girl for the sake of their economic prosperity? For the sake of their economic prosperity, they were killing a girl, a female, so the people could flourish economically, they can prosper, they can make profit. What is happening today? If a woman is put on top of a pickup truck so the pickup truck could sell, and if a woman is advertised eating a burger so Hardee's can sell their burger, and if a woman is standing next to a Pepsi can so the Pepsi can sell, what is happening to the woman here? Anything different? A woman, her honor is being sacrificed for the sake of prosperity, for the sake of economic growth, for the sake of profits for the company. So has there really been a change? Female infanticide was taking place thousands of years ago, and it still takes place. And women are used and abused for economic gain back then and today also. In the ancient times, in Greece and Rome, philosophers, Aristotle in Arabic, Aristotle in English, Aflatun in Arabic, Plato in English, used to debate, does woman have a ruh? Does she have a ruh? Does she have a soul? And Aristotle came to this conclusion, the famous Greek philosopher, that a woman is intellectually inferior to a man. And in the Roman Empire also, because before the Romans came the Greeks, and before the Greeks were the Egyptians. And in the Roman Empire also, a woman could not own property. She could not own property. Not only that, if the husband had the right to kill his wife in ancient Rome, and no one would question his actions. And what to say about the Hindu faith? Some of you have heard what was the situation of a widow when her husband died. In some cases, she was burned with her husband, that there is no point for her to live any longer since her husband has died. Now, if she is young, it's possible that a young woman, her husband dies tragically. She's never allowed to marry again. And even today, it is considered a taboo for a widow to remarry. And in some cases, her head would be shaved to make her unattractive to the opposite gender. And the widows were considered such a bad omen that no one would touch her. And they would stay away from her, as if some curse had come upon her from the heavens because her husband has died. And in England, for the past 1,000 years, came from the Norman conquest, the woman would take on the last name of her husband. Why? To show that after marriage, she now belongs to her husband. She's the property of her husband. Islam came and gave the message that men and women are equal in the sight of Allah. Innal Muslimina wal Muslimat. Surah Ahzab, Surah number 33, verse number 35. Innal Muslimina wal Muslimat. Men who submit to Allah and women who submit to Allah. Wal Mu'minina wal Mu'minat. And men who believe in Allah and women who believe in Allah. Wal Qanitina wal Qanitat. The men who are devout and the women who are devout. Was-sadiqina was-sadiqat. The men who speak the truth and women who speak the truth. Was-sabirina was-sabirat. The men who exercise patience and the women who exercise patience. Wal-khashi'ina wal-khashi'at. The men who are humble and the women who are humble. Wal-mutasaddiqina wal-mutasaddiqat. The men who give sadaqah and the women who give sadaqah, charity. Was-sa'imina was-sa'imat. The men who fast and the women who fast. Wal-hafidhina furujahum wal-hafidhat. The men who guard their chastity and the women who guard their chastity. وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ. And the men who remember Allah in abundance and the women who remember Allah in abundance. أَعَدَّ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةً وَأَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Allah has prepared for them, who? Men and women. Such men and women who have these qualities, who have these characteristics, who have these traits, both of them are equal in the sight of Allah, and both genders will enter Jannah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and said, the person who raises 3 daughters, gives them the proper upbringing, they will go to Jannah. And they have secured Jannah for themselves. A person, Sahabi, probably he had 2 daughters. He stood up and said, O Nabi of Allah, what about a person who raises 2 daughters? The Prophet of Allah said the same. He has secured Jannah. And then one person said, what about 1 daughter? The Prophet of Allah said the same reward is for the person who raises 1 daughter. He will go to Jannah. What has happened today is that women compare themselves to men. And this is called feminism, Western feminism, where women say we are equal to men politically, socially, and economically. So if a man can cut his hair short, a woman can also cut her hair short. And if a man can join the army, a woman can join the army. And if a man can work, a woman can also work 8 hours a day. And if a man can enter politics, a woman can also enter politics. This is fundamentally flawed. Why? Why is this fundamentally flawed? Because the women are comparing themselves to men. You are determining, the women are determining their value, their worth in society, their value in comparison to men. That's a faulty assumption. Why are you using men as a standard? Men are not the standard. If a man can do this, I can do this. This is a faulty assumption. This is a faulty standard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created men and women equal spiritually in the sight of Allah. But physically we are different. And based on our differences, Allah has assigned different roles and responsibilities. Different roles and responsibilities for the men and different roles and responsibilities for the women. And if a woman is trying to find her worth and value by comparing herself to men, then she is deviating from something far superior. This is an inferior standard. And sadly, there are Muslim women who also, very few, who also say the same. If a man can lead prayer, why can't a woman lead prayer? If a man can pray in the first row, why can't a woman pray in the first row? Praying in the first row, let me give you an example. Being an imam does not necessarily mean that the person leading the prayer is spiritually closer to Allah. A sister praying in the back row in the woman's area could be more spiritually closer to Allah than the imam, and could be more spiritually closer to Allah than all the men praying at that time. Being an imam is not a spiritual position. 5 people are driving in a car, well, you will have one driver. The one who you designate as the driver on a road trip does not necessarily mean he's the best driver. It's a good idea to have a good driver, experienced driver, not someone who just got his license the day before yesterday. But the person who is driving out of 5 friends on a road trip does not mean that he is the best driver. We expect the imam to be more knowledgeable and hopefully to be more spiritually closer to Allah, but that's not a prerequisite. So after the 1940s, after World War II, women came into the workforce. They were needed in the workforce to work on fighter aircrafts and tanks, to build machine guns, to make bullets for the World War II war effort. And this has been a big deception, because what has happened is they go back home and then they still have a ton of work, affairs of the home that they need to carry out. So not out of their only working a 40-hour week, they're also carrying out the responsibilities at home. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put the responsibility of earning a livelihood on the shoulders of men. Not that women cannot have a career. Women can have a career. But let me give you the statistics. Out of women who have one child, they have one child, mothers who have a single child, only 31% of them in America have full-time employment. And out of women who have 2 or more children, 18%, only 18% have full-time employment. And out of these women who are working, the 31% and the 18%, when asked, 93% of them said they would rather stay home and spend time with their children. 93% of them said they would rather spend quality time with their children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our maker, He knows us best. Based on our physical differences and our different roles and responsibilities, He has relaxed the roles of the female gender. A female Sahabiya came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and asked about jihad. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, your jihad is Hajj. Imagine, they get the reward of performing jihad simply by performing Hajj. Many instances where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the Sharia there is relaxation for them. Jummah prayer, men have to come for Jummah prayer. No ifs and buts. The income that is earned after the first adhan, for a person who does not attend the Jummah prayer, the income, the money that he makes after the first adhan, up to the end of the Jummah prayer, that much income is haram. Because he wasn't supposed to be working at that time. Sisters, they don't have to come for Jummah prayer. They can if they want, but they don't have to. So there's less restrictions, less compulsion. And who has ordained this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So coming back to work, a woman can have a career, but we should be clear in our minds that her honor and her distinction is the gift that Allah has given her, which is uniquely feminine. That is what she should take pride in. Being a mother. If a woman was given the choice of being the President of the United States of America or being the mother and having Jannah at her feet, a Muslim woman would say, no thank you to the presidency, I would rather be a mother. Because this is the gift and the distinction and the honor that Allah has bestowed on me, which is uniquely feminine. Your honor does not lie in competing with the men. That's the difference between Western feminism and Islamic feminism. Western feminism tries to find value for the woman in society by bringing her up as equal to men, making men the standard. That's a faulty standard. Don't make men the standard. Why are men determining your worth and your value? Your worth and value, speaking to the sisters, your worth and value does not come by comparing yourself to men. Your worth and value comes by what Allah has given you. By comparing yourself to Fatimatul Zahra radiyallahu anha, by comparing yourself to Khadijatul Kubra radiyallahu anha, by comparing yourself to Isa, the mother of Isa alayhi salam, Maryam, by comparing yourself to Hajara alayhi salam. So we should not think that a woman who has a career and has a family has it all. No, she does not have it all. Because again, what is all? What is all? All is what Allah has given you, not what society says all is all. Hajara radiyallahu anha. Whenever I go for Hajj or Umrah, whenever I'm blessed with the opportunity, I think Safa and Marwa, no one's Hajj is complete and no one's Umrah is complete until they perform Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, that is emulating a woman. They have to do what that woman Hajara did 5,000 years ago. فَمَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ أَوْ اعْتَمَرَ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ أَنْ يَطَّوَّفَ بِهِمَا. And the water that we drink and bring back called Zamzam is from her sacrifice. And the name Zamzam is given by her because she came and she saw the water gushing out. So she said, Zam, Zam, stop, stop. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if we look, whenever Fatima radiallahu anha would come, he would stand up for her. The honor that he bestowed on women. His foster sister, Shayma radiallahu anha, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would stand up for her. Umar radiallahu anhu was once walking, and a woman, elderly woman, came and began speaking to him. And Umar radiallahu anhu stood and listened attentively. And she said, I know the time when you were little, from the time that you were Umair, which means little Umar, to the time where you used to herd a flock of camels. And now you have become Amirul Mu'mineen. I know you from the early days. And Umar radiallahu anhu stood there listening. Sahaba, they said, who is this woman? She delayed you for so long, telling you to do this and do this, giving you advice. Umar radiallahu anhu said, if I had to stand for 3 days for this woman, I would stand for 3 days. This is the woman for whom regarding Quran came down. قد سمع الله قول التي تجادلك في زوجها وتشتكي إلى الله. This is Khawla. When she complained to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about how her husband had treated her, Quran came giving instructions. So if we look at the history, our own history, no need to look to the West. No need to look elsewhere. If we look at Quran and Sunnah and the life of the Sahaba, we find the status that Islam has bestowed on women. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the full realization. Wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa ma alayna illa al-balagh.